Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, March 27th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're someone that uses charts within your trading, or maybe just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this would be a video for you. Real quick, a couple of clarifications. Number one, the price you see over here will be changing, and the candlestick you see right there will be changing and moving around. That is because the market's still open for a small amount of time, but I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. And then second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here, as they're called, represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, SI, huge explosion today. I mean, volume had essentially been non-existent. And then you look here and you can see volume really kicked it into another gear, which has now presented a very solid pattern. And as I draw this pattern, just understand that a lot of people have noticed this pattern. So there is that idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy behind it, meaning when a lot of people are watching the same things and wondering the same thing, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever you want to call it, it can produce some very dynamic movements. So we have that top part of the pattern. And then we have this bottom part of the support, this pullback area down around $1.60. And then to make this all maybe easier to see, let's keep it one color. So we have our resistance, we have our support, we have the explosion right there. And for you golfers out there, we'll make it a little bit more visual. This would be known as a bull pennant pattern. There are no guarantees, but is it valid? Is it plausible to think that if the price comes up here and can get a break up through the top part of that pattern, that break in and of itself would create additional buying pressure? Again, not a guarantee, but certainly a plausible thought process to have. So if you like bull pennants, if you like stocks down below $5, keep an eye on it. Next one, TRKA. This one I think had been left for dead, and then all of a sudden today came back to life and was basically saying, hey, remember me, remember me. Good, solid volume. And this is where things got a little sketchy because the price was pulling back. So at this point, it became valid to say, is this thing just going to crash right back to where it was? But we got our answer, no. It actually returned back upwards. It is now presenting a nice pattern here, which again, we can call a self-fulfilling prophecy point right up here around 23 cents as that key level that you got to think that all sorts of people are watching as that main breakout area. And like I said, no guarantees, but is it valid to think that the price can, again, because right now it's putting these higher lows. So if these higher lows continue and then it comes up here and breaks up through 23, is it valid to think that that break could in and of itself create additional buying pressure? That's certainly a valid thought process to have. So certainly keep an eye on that 23 cent mark if you like to play breakouts. As far as pullbacks are concerned, a couple different ways you could go about it. The main level that you got to think most people are watching is that purple line there, which represents the very famous 50-period moving average down there at the 19 cent mark. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive in your pullbacks, then you could play, potentially right there around the 21 cent mark. But I think, at least in my opinion, at least the most interesting dynamic, the dynamic that most people are probably watching is, can this thing curl back up the rest of the way and get the break at 23 cents? So it's certainly worth keeping an eye on, especially if you like penny stocks. Next one here, ticker symbol VORB. And this is why I like to do these when the market's open, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because check this thing out. Absolute beast mode the last 30 minutes. But this is what brings up the very interesting question, because as you notice, the price is now very close to that pink line, which on my chart represents the very famous 200-period moving average. So the big question mark that you got to think a lot of people are asking is, how is the price going to behave around that pink line, which value of 89 cents? So 89 cents, certainly going to be that key level of resistance. But this is an exciting question to be asking because, I mean, again, look down here, last 30 minutes, volume right there is pouring in as you watch that number right there continue to go up. So yes, big movement. Can the price break through 89 cents? Certainly going to be an interesting dynamic to watch. Although, to be fair, maybe by the time you watch this on YouTube, because the market's still open for about 15 minutes, maybe the price has broken up through 89 cents. And if it has, that just signals that much more of a healthy, very, very powerful final 30 minutes. So watch that moving forward as the main area of resistance. In terms of levels of support, key level to watch is this former breakout area there at the 75 cent mark. So if you like to play more so pullbacks, that's an interesting level. And then like the previous one, you could, would you ever get filled waiting for the price to come all the way down to the 50-period moving average? I suppose you never know, but I would definitely consider that more of a pie in the sky type entry point as compared to maybe some sort of pullback right there. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out what works best for you in your strategy. But moral of the story here, huge final 30 minutes. Does it get up through the 89 cent mark, whether it's today or on Monday? Worth keeping an eye on. Next one, FRC. Talked about this one previously, and this one has become very, very interesting for nothing fancy. So this is not some sort of complicated, idea, but the price continues to respect this green line. And as I speak, last 30 minutes, you can see actually essentially has bounced off that green line again, which carries quite a bit of weight. Was a previous low there. Both of these times, the price bounced and bounced. And once again, Is it going to bounce again? Now, let me be very clear, and I wish I could say trading was this easy. Just because it's bounced before does not mean for sure guaranteed it's bouncing again. But is it plausible? Is it valid to throw out that question and think that it could potentially bounce? Yeah, absolutely. It's happened twice before. So from a risk-reward scenario, meaning assuming you can be disciplined and honor stop losses, compared to what's being risked relative to the potential reward you could get if you do indeed get a bounce, very, very interesting scenario. So if you like to kind of try to play these off the bottom with, tight risk where you have good, solid upside potential reward, definitely keep an eye on it. Next one here, AMC. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because assuming you watched yesterday's video, then you know what I'm going to talk about. But even if you didn't, very straightforward because both the levels that I talked about previously still hold. So for those that have watched past videos, 437 has been a key area of support. And you can see that once again, this level has held strong. And then on the flip side of things, key level of resistance is that trend line right there and never really got close to it today. So nothing has changed in that regard. That level is still going to be this area of resistance. So from a pattern perspective, if you want, you could look at this as just one big wedge pattern. Maybe some people would argue this is some sort of longer-term bull pennant pattern. So you don't want to get down in the weeds of arguing, well, no, it's this pattern. Oh, no, it's that pattern. At the end of the day, the price is holding up. So give credit where credit's due. The price is doing a good job of flexing its muscles by holding strong there. But on the flip side, the bears are also making progress by pushing the price downwards, which brings about the question is who is ultimately going to win out? Are the bears going to win out by pushing to the downside, or are the bulls going to win out by pushing to the upside? Certainly keep an eye on it for next week. Real quick, want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online event that I'm offering next week. So if you've been enjoying what you're seeing and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency to manage risk as a trader, then definitely get signed up for the free live webinar. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box to get signed up. If you're watching on my site, there's an area right there on the webpage you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you're enjoying, then certainly get signed up for the free class. Next one here, MULN. And I mean, this one is on the watch list for one reason, and it's because of that candle right there. That candle to me just makes me go, huh. Because at one point this was red, now it's bounced all the way back up. So I guess the secondary reason would be, and now the next candle is the little green candle here forming. So once again, to be fair, maybe it doesn't mean anything at all. Maybe this thing just goes right back to chopping sideways or drops downwards. But as always, that's why risk management matters. But that is a two-sided coin because I don't know. Is this some sort of leading indicator where I'm going to be looking back at it next Friday and the price is going to be all the way up here? I have no idea. But like I said, this one is almost a cult-like stock, has a cult-like following, and people, they're just looking for any reason at all to buy. And like I said, that candle there followed by the green makes me just throw out the question mark and say, you know what? Interesting. And that's the idea of a watch list. Not to randomly rush out and buy anything, but to watch it and see what happens. So if you agree, if you think this is kind of a interesting type situation, then yeah, throw it on the watch list. Next one, AMD. And now we have an interesting scenario here because the price has pushed down below that trend line there. But to be fair, it's not like it was a train wreck where the price broke and then kept dropping. So nothing like that. But it has now formed, and I'm going to draw this very crudely, a bear pennant pattern. Now, to be fair, just because something's bearish does not mean that the price is going to automatically drop. Just because there's a bullish pattern doesn't mean that the price is going to go up. But my point here is that this is, the big dynamic that you got to think a lot of people are watching is they've noticed that the trend line is broken. So their question is, okay, does this trend line break get more continuation? And you got to think that they're probably relatively convinced that it could because you do have this bear pennant that has formed. So like I said, to me, that's a very, very interesting dynamic. Going to go get rid of that. And in my mind, the very near-term level to watch from a support standpoint is going to be that trend line right there, which is essentially the bottom part of that bear pennant pattern that I drew. So keep an eye on that from a very near-term area of support standpoint. And then if that level is broken, next key level of support to watch to see if the price can potentially go down and visit would be down there right around the 95.65 mark. If the price does break upwards, then yeah, you have this overarching level up there. But the key level is that purple line there, 50-period moving average. Notice, rejected. So in the very near term, that level's been quite stubborn. But those would be the two near-term levels, and then you have those overarching levels. But yeah, overall, AMD, very interesting situation headed into next week. Next one, BBBY, and I thought this one was completely toast, but you have these situations where volume comes in, especially that 30-minute period right there, and you just wonder, okay, well, we'll see what happens with it. And especially with a situation like this, the situation being such a well-defined resistance area, I mean, you got to think that everybody and their brother's uncle has drawn this trend line. I mean, a very basic trend line, connect those two, and did a fantastic job of forecasting where that area of resistance was going to be. So worth keeping an eye on if you like to play penny stocks, potentially just have kind of these random explosions. So guaranteed, as I said, no, but valid to think that if the price comes up there and breaks through that area right around the 88, 89 cent mark, that break could create additional buying pressure. Absolutely. And then on the flip side, is it valid to think, because it's, bounced off a couple times now, that if the price comes down here to 77 cents, again, let me move this away from my ugly mug. There we go. So we have area there where it held, and then once again held. So again, does that guarantee anything? Of course not. But is it valid to think that it could come down there and bounce once again? Sure, that would totally be a rational thought process. Next one, TSLA Tesla. And overall, not a terrible day. This green line here did get broken, but it's not like it was a train wreck. It broke and then is actually back up above there. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that level as it's played its role here. But in all actuality, nothing really new from at least a support standpoint. You still have that green line there at 186.50, and not far below there, you have that pink line, which you now know is the 200 period moving average, valid at, let's just call it 185.50-ish area. So if the price were to come down here, this general area, you got to think is going to be relatively stubborn as support. If it's not stubborn, then I take that as a signal that, wow, the bears are really picking up quite a bit of strength. If the price does try to turn back upwards, then yes, up here at $200, you have that overarching level, but kind of like AMD, you have more of the near-term levels and then the overarching level. So overarching up there at 200, but in the near term, yeah, you guessed it, that purple line there, you can see once again is starting to get very, very annoying relative to the price. So if the price does move upwards, and as of right now, that value is right there around, let's just call it the 193.85 mark. But overall, not a great day for Tesla, but all things considered, it's holding up. It's trying to build this overall higher base. And from a bigger picture point of view, that's what it's all about, just building those higher bases. Next one, TQQQ, which is an ETF that measures the NASDAQ market. So if you believe that the NASDAQ market as a whole is going to rise, this one will also rise. The difference being this just allows you access at a much lower price point, which makes it very attractive. And here we go. Very exciting situation here as we head into next week, because the price has now broken through this trend line, which brings about a very exciting question. Is this the start of something even bigger? Now think about that question. In order to ask such a question, something worthwhile first needs to happen. If nothing worthwhile happens, then you don't get to ask that question because it wouldn't make any sense. But in this situation, something worthwhile, the trend line break has happened. Therefore, it is worthwhile. It's valid to ask that question. As I mentioned on an earlier one, to be fair, maybe not. Maybe this thing just rolls right back over. That's completely possible. But two-sided coin. Well, maybe this is the start of something bigger, and this thing is going to get ripping and roaring back to the upside. So yes, always exciting when trend lines are broken, and then you get to ask the question of, okay, trend line broken, is there going to be more continuation? Is this the start of a much bigger move? So definitely keep an eye on it. If not, and it rolls back down, well, then this green line here that I've talked about time and time again at 24.90, once again held today. So I'll turn that into a quick plug. Get signed up for that webinar. I mean, it's free. And, like I said, a classic example here of technical analysis working. But yes, that level did hold. But like I said, the most interesting dynamic is that level is broken. Is this the start of something even bigger? Let's see what happens next week. So that wraps up the top 10. Again, if you like what you saw here, then I want you to get signed up for the free class next week, Thursday, March 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you there. As far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy this format, please do two things for me. Hit that like button, leave a comment below. Tell me what you traded today. Tell me what you're watching next week. But those two things help out the channel, help out these videos. And as long as I know people are enjoying, I will continue to do them. So again, get signed up for that free training. Hit the like button, leave a simple comment down below. Enjoy your weekend.